and welcome to Career Spotlight with Vanessa Ajimai. Another day and another great guest. So today I have with me Kudzai Nyatsine, who is a DevOps engineer, and I'm so excited for him to share his career journey and some career insights as well. If you're enjoying content like this, make sure that you subscribe and also share. Kudzai, thank you so much for
Thanks for
agreeing
having
to
me.
come and share your career journey.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you.
Great. So obviously I've started off and just said that you're a DevOps engineer.
Yeah.
Can you expand and tell us more about what you do and your role?
Yeah, so I'm more like an automator. So my role is more like automating tasks. So my job is to deploy code which developers work with. Then it's for me to kind of ship it in the cloud for it to be accessible everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So my job actually is not, I know it's DevOps engineer, but it's more like platform engineering. So I'm
Okay.
giving a platform to developers and operations.
Some people watching may want to know some of these keywords, aspects that you've just pointed out. When we're talking of like the cloud, what in simple terms, like what is that?
So the cloud is someone's computer, essentially. So it's someone, you have to pay like a space on someone's computer. So in
Yeah.
this case, we've got companies like Amazon, Microsoft, that you can host your infrastructure or your applications on their computers. So you don't have to incur any costs for your own, now from your own computer, and you can have unlimited storage on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with your role, what does that process look like then?
So with my role, it's more like so within my company or any company really, you've got like a bunch of developers.
Yeah.
And if so developers are people who actually make these applications, right? They program these applications. But these applications, they require somewhere to be hosted on. So in this case, that's the cloud. So where I come in is I automate the whole process. So from having that application sitting in someone's computer into somewhere where the whole public can see it.
When we talk about automation, what's that?
Automation is more like making someone's job easier, right? So let's say, for example, I was speaking about the cloud. So there's certain infrastructure within the cloud that you can actually go in there and manually do it. But that's time consuming, right? So when you talk about automation, it's about writing a script or writing something that follows step by step, and deploys it for you. So good example will be something like a recipe. So you've got like instructions. So instead of you doing it manually, right, you can get something to do it for you. So like a robot or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that simple, making it something quite complex sound so simple.
Yeah. That's always the hardest thing, right? Just
Yeah.
in my head, I've got all these technical jargons, but I just need to simplify it for like everyone to know.
Yeah, exactly. So how does one like get into it? How did you find yourself in this role?
So initially, when I first started, I was more of a developer. So like making websites, making applications. I taught myself like online, So when I was teaching myself, there's there's kind of like a ceiling you hit just by doing it by yourself. And in terms of like opportunities, someone needs to see your work. So what I did, I joined a boot camp where it was like an intense boot camp for 3 months. So when I was there, that's when I got exposed to DevOps. And I was like, I actually like automation. I actually like scripting things, Then I kind of lost interest in developing things and went towards DevOps. Then after 3 months, I got a job, like a placement with an insurance company. Then I did 2 years with that company, as a junior DevOps engineer. And from then on, that's just started getting experience from different companies, really.
How did you see like your role evolve as you transition from those companies?
So most companies, they use different technologies, but the concept is always the same.
Mm.
You know, so if you know how to code or how to script, it's always the same thing. They will use different processes as long as you understand the basics. You know, that's what matters. So in terms of switching, it wasn't that hard because I knew the fundamentals and the basics of doing my role. You know, it was more about actually customizing what I do to fit their purposes.
Okay, interesting. In terms of like your educational background, what does that kind of look like?
So my education doesn't have anything to do with IT at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. So I've got a degree in business studies. You know, I graduated back in 2012. From then on, yeah, I didn't know anything about IT at all. Yeah. So I just met a friend at my local church and was like, oh, are you interested in doing some work in IT? And I was like, okay, let me find out. Then I just started doing some work within the church, you know, like developing websites, doing some basic websites really, you know, and I learned a lot online, to be honest with you, like on YouTube, like YouTube videos. Then from then on, yeah. So you actually don't need a degree to become a DevOps engineer or a developer or anything IT related, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where did you find the boot camp then? I know you mentioned earlier that you did a 3 months boot camp.
I found it through my brother actually. My brother was he had finished uni, so he was applying for jobs, but he didn't have the skills that was needed for that bootcamp. He ended up going with them as well, but for project management and business studies, out of business analysis. And they needed someone with kind of like technical background. Then I just so he recommended them to me. Then I went forward with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What does like a typical week look like in your role?
A
If there is
typical week.
one. Yeah.
Uh, so well, I wake up, go to the gym,
Mm.
come back, you know, make a cup of coffee. Then
Mhm.
I just write down my tasks that I need to kind of do for that day, you know. Then I just do my job. It's quite flexible, really, because I work online. I'm a remote worker.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm quite flexible.
Mm.
So yeah, most times it's more because I'm working from home, so I can just balance.
What about like in the workplace? Is there a sort of structure that you normally follow?
Mm, not really. Because I work with architects, right? So what
Yeah.
normally happens, yeah, in terms of the structure, we work in sprints, like two
Mm.
sprints, like fortnight. And what normally happens is I'll sit down with my architects and my business analysts and my developers. It's more like an agile team. Then we kind of allocate what work needs to be done. Then I just kind of like prioritize what I need to do, like, you know, depending what's needed. Really.
Mm.
Yeah. And I just work through it.
Okay. So I know that agile gets chucked around quite
Mm.
a bit as well. Like, can you just
Yeah.
shed some light on what agile means to you and in the environments that you work in?
Well, I think the most important aspect of agile for me is collaboration, which kind of ties up with DevOps as well. Because the reason why DevOps exists is because of the collaboration that happens between operations and developers. You know, it eliminates the blaming game. So
Mm.
that's what's more important, really, collaborating and making sure like we're working in sprints, you know, to meet the deadlines and to make sure the project is successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about current trends,
Mm.
right now, what are sort of the most important trends and
Mm.
developments within DevOps and cloud engineering?
I'd say, well, I haven't actually looked more into this, but I feel like the rise of the AI that's coming in.
Mm.
You know, you've got things like ChatGPT, you know, artificial intelligence. Yeah, I feel like that's what's coming right now. You know, yeah, if someone wants to jump on it, I think that's like the most thing to jump on, really, because it's coming quick.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any views on ChatGPT? I've had quite a few conversations on
So
this.
So when it came, was it January, December time, right? When it came?
Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was a bit skeptical about it because I felt like it's coming to take our jobs, Like anything that you put in there, it does it for you. But now I feel like it's more like a friend, it helps you out. Something that I normally take like few days to crack is in like a few minutes, and it speeds up work as well. So for me, I feel like it's something really brilliant to have. It's one of like the tools that if you're working in IT, you should actually acquire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about tools, what are some other like common technologies and tools that is used within like DevOps?
So in DevOps, you've got tools like Terraform, which is a scripting language. You've got tools like Kubernetes for containerization. You've got the cloud itself, whether it's Microsoft Azure or AWS or GCP. Yeah, then you've got things like Chef for configuration. Yeah, and also like Python, which is one of the most important things to have as a DevOps engineer. Yeah.
And how do you build your expertise on these tools and technology?
Well, as a DevOps engineer, right, it's all about learning fast. Learn something quick, use it. Don't, I know some people, especially developers, they are more like, okay, I'm a master of C#, I'm a master of Java. In DevOps, it's not like that, because it's constant learning, really, because we are using different tools at the same time. So right now, if I want to spin up like a virtual machine, I need to find the best tool that can do it for me. And if it doesn't work, I need to jump on the next one. So it's all about learning the basics, really, and the fundamentals of what exactly that you need to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So processes are more important than tools.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess that also goes in with the agile ways.
That's it. Yeah. The way I see agile, right? The way I see DevOps is more like an extension of agile. So the extra bit will be the automation. So for everything that agile stands for, then automation, then that's what makes DevOps.
Looking through at your career journey, what is an interesting project that you've worked in and what made it either challenging or rewarding?
Oh, they must have done so many.
Yeah. One.
I would say one of them was the migration of infrastructure from the on-premises into the cloud.
Okay.
So automating that whole process. That was one of the most challenging ones, yeah. And the most exciting ones as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were some of like the key aspects or things that you had, components that you had to consider during that process?
Like what, sorry?
Moving from on-premise to cloud as part of that.
Yeah, so you have to consider. So one thing you have to learn about is more like on-premises is actually its own parameters, its own network, right? So it's like rebuilding that whole thing, but in the cloud. So you have to consider things like storage. Where are you going to be storing your applications? You have to consider networking. How are things going to be communicating when they are placed in the cloud environment? You'd have to consider security as well. Like once it's in the cloud, how likely are they to be hacked? Because now they are kind of like in public now. So anyone can probably access them. So you have to put some security around it.
And when we're talking about security, I know that cybersecurity is like quite another like hot topic. How much does like security come with your role and being like, I guess, aware and mindful of that?
So about 90% of it, everything has to be, have to consider security. So another term that we are often referred to is DevSecOps.
Okay.
So when we're deploying our code or when we're configuring something, always have this security in your mind. Because because right now we're dealing with like sensitive data. I could be working for a bank. I could be working because we're using personal information, for people. So it's something that we have to kind of like be mindful of, that anything can leak, someone can hack. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any advice for someone who may be considering a career and maybe similar to yourself, doesn't come from an IT background and wants to move into DevOps?
Yeah, so I would say, so me myself, right? I'm a good example. I came from not knowing IT at all, like how a computer works. Yeah. The best thing is just jump straight into it, Right now, you don't have to go to like uni or focus on one thing. We've got unlimited information. I would say right now is the best time to live because, or especially the time we are living right now, is the best time because we've got unlimited information everywhere. You can literally start something and be something else, transform your life really. Yeah. Never be scared and get to know the basics first. Don't jump straight into like the deep end. Master the basics. Yeah. So like for me myself right now, I'm actually mentoring a couple of people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So is that open for anyone that's interested?
Yeah, definitely. Anyone that's open, they can get in touch with me.
Okay. So will that be through what channel?
Right now I'm actually creating a website about it,
Okay.
but most people contact me through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can connect your LinkedIn.
Yeah, nice one.
For anyone that's interested. What kind of skills would like be key to be successful?
The kind of skills I would say would be the soft skills, something like communication, the passion as well, like makes you feel like you love to learn. Because something in IT is you're constantly learning something and things come and go. I mean, so many things which were a hot topic in the last few years, now they're no longer around, be adaptable to change as well, like be flexible to change. Those are the type of skills. Keep up with the current trends, yeah. And in terms of what I do, learn at least one language that can at least get to know how to code. Yeah, it doesn't matter which language, as long as you know how coding works or how programming works.
Sure, thank you. In terms of obstacles and overcoming challenges, are you able to share any kind of obstacles that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, the obstacles when I first started actually was more like a lot of people didn't trust my skills, so I had to prove myself, and the way I had to do it was to constantly learn, like be so good that obviously people can ignore you. There's a book which people can read, yeah. Where I knew like I can't prove my skills, I would compensate it by actually proving the willingness to learn as well, So in terms of the obstacles, I would say a lot of it was more like trust. Like a lot of people could not, especially when someone's coming into the IT, if you didn't have any sort of background in IT as well.
Yeah.
Most people would prefer someone with like computer science degree, Yeah.
When it comes to like coding and development, you kind of, some people sometimes build a picture of someone constantly just behind the computer, like I guess day and night, pretty much coding. How do you balance your work life and work-life balance basically?
Work-life balance, yeah. I think right now, yeah, sometimes let's say, because I work from home anyway, and I've got a 1-year-old child, most times I do it at night. But let's say if I don't get enough time during the daytime, once in a while, when everyone's sleeping, that's my quiet time to actually sit down and concentrate. Yeah, but I like to kind of balance it as well. I'm not like one of them people who just sit at the computer 24/7 now.
Yeah.
I have to balance it as well. Yeah.
When it comes to collaborating, which I know you mentioned, what like approach do you take in working with other teams? Including like operational teams, in order to ensure that you have a successful project delivery?
The first thing is the requirements. The requirements have to be clear from whoever is giving the requirements. Once I identify what's actually needed to complete the project from the requirements anyway, then I kind of like know who to speak to, you know. So let's say if it's something that we are planning to build within the cloud platform, you know, and not the architects would have to design the whole thing. So I would have to work with them to understand exactly how and why they've done it that way, you know. Then from then on, because my job is mostly implementing.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. So it's all about identify what each person adds to the table, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who are like the kind of your key stakeholders that you find that you engage with on a daily basis as part of your role?
Security engineers, business analysts, and architects and developers, mainly developers.
And what does that kind of engagement look like?
Some developers, because obviously they are creating the applications, and my job is to kind of like serve them, you know, and deploy whatever code they are producing into the cloud. So within the cloud platform, I would have to deal with operations as well, you know, and see how things sit within the cloud platform for that application that I'm deploying to actually sit well in there. So I'm kind of like in between the developer and operations, and hence why you've got the DevOps term.
Okay. I think you brushed on ChatGPT and it being kind of like your friend. How do you see the role of like DevOps and platform engineer evolving in the years to come?
I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to do it, especially like from the developer side. Because right now, if someone is to apply for a developer's role, they're also required to have those skills, you know, of automation as well. Although that's not like their main focus, but I feel like with companies nowadays, they like to cut costs. So they would rather have someone who can do a lot of things at once, you know, who comes with a package than someone who's specialized.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say in terms of like the AI, yeah, that's how I see it, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how do you ensure that your team is following best practices when it comes to code management and things like version control?
How do you ensure that? That's a good question, actually. So from the platform I work in, you can actually automate that whole process, you know. So we use something called CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous development, deployment, or continuous delivery. So when someone deploys the code or checks in any code, if it's not meeting any standards that we've set, because of the automation behind it, it kind of declines your code, you know. So you can actually check in your code if it's not meeting all the standards that we've met. So because everything needs to be automated now, you know, even including what we are automating. Yeah.
Okay. And the part that I know that many people like to know about, which is the money. What's like the average salary for DevOps platform engineer? I know there'll be quite a big, I guess, a difference between permanent and then contracting. So maybe from your experience.
It depends at what level, you know. If it's like junior wise, you're looking maybe late 30s, early 40s, something.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're mid, maybe at least 55 to about 60 something. And senior, looking anything above that to about 100 and something or 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you know about the contracting rates?
With contracting, which I am, it's quite lucrative, I won't lie, you know. So you're looking
at junior level as well.
Junior level, you're looking maybe about 400, I think, inside at the above.
Yeah.
And then if you're quite senior, it's anything from like 600, 700. Yeah.
With what you know now, do you have any specific like lessons learned that you can share?
I would say, you know, I think one thing I like about this role is I'm constantly learning. It's quite challenging, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm always challenged. You'll never get bored doing something like this. Yeah. There's always something to do, really. Yeah.
Great. What professional qualifications or certifications have you done?
Cloud and project management. Yeah. So I'm mainly focused within the Microsoft Azure. So I've got like the Azure certifications. Yeah. I've done the Azure architecture and administrator. Yeah.
Okay. Putting so much light on the role of DevOps and the platform engineer. If you've managed to watch up until now, I'm sure that you've been able to pick up something and continue to tune into this channel to hear more amazing career story journeys.